Greetings, everyone. My name is Father Sebastiaan, the Impresario of the Endless Night Vampire Ball and Master Fangsmith of the Sabretooth clan, author of the books Black Veil and Strigoi and Mysteries of Paris, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Today, I want to welcome you to my Vampire Adventure podcast. Music, paranormal, art, rock and roll, the whole thing. And I have a very special guest today, a friend of mine who I have not yet met in person, but have talked for hours on the phone with, and that is Nnaus from Atlanta, Georgia, and we're going to have a great conversation today. So join us on this vampire adventure. Sovereign, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. What a setup. I love your room.
Thank you. Thank you. There is the entire vicinity here is completely decorated like this. This is one throne, and then there's another one that's in front of me. This one happens to be
wow.
favorite. Yeah.
Are you at your dinner table?
No. I'm actually in my living room.
I love it. We should start a TV show called Vampire Crips.
We should totally do that. We really should. It would be amazing. Seriously.
So this is our first time actually podcasting. We've talked on the phone for hours, but
yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Nnaus Feratu, and I live in Atlanta currently, originally from Nigeria. I am a parent to two beautiful boys, my precious baby bats, and they keep me on my toes at all times. I have my company called Goth and Raw. I am vegan. I've been vegan for 25 years and counting. I am an advocate for mental health, for LGBTQ rights. I am for what we call intersectional vegan, which is something that is very dear to me because unfortunately you have that separation within that community where they constantly feel, well, it's just for the animals. It is, but if we're all sentient beings here, you can't care about one thing and not the other. It all affects, It's all together. So I speak on other issues that are vital. I also have a beauty line that I do, and it was on hold briefly because I did have a very unexpected occurrence that happened medically. I'm very happy to be able to be here with you. Yeah. I'm doing
good.
That.
You worried me for a second.
That's another thing that I speak on is abuse.
Okay.
And I'm just really happy to be here. Yeah.
So let's start with you've just put out a lot of things to discuss. So let's try to cover all of this. Yeah. Okay. Let's start with your veganism.
Yes.
Okay. What did that begin culturally or because of a certain interest, or you just felt that it was necessary? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I was going to high school, my best friend and we constantly joke. We're still friends to this day since we were 16 years old. And she was very hippie. So we were like the opposite of the spectrum, but I loved her with all of my heart and I still do. And she was vegan beforehand. And we were hanging out at her house and she wanted me to try something. And there is a powder called spirutine, and it's a soy-based powder. It was strawberry, and GNC was a place that at the time, like that was the main place to go get anything that was healthy. And so she was like, I need you to try something. So I was like, okay. She's like, you're not even questioning what it is. I was like, I trust you. You're not going to poison me. We're good. And I drank it. And I was like, this is great. She was like, this is not dairy. I was like, you're joking. She's like, no. And I was like, huh. That had me kind of investigate. I became a vegetarian first. When I became vegan, my family thought, oh, it's just going to be a short thing. And you can go eat the grass behind the house and And I was like, no. And the kicker for me was I went to go see a band play, and I was living in Michigan at the time, so St. Andrews Hall. And once the band was done playing, the merch table. I went over to the merch table and girls were covering their faces and, you know, going off. And I'm just like, it's just hoodies and t-shirts. And I don't see what the big deal is. They are part of PETA. Like, they've been recognized by PETA, but they themselves are animal activists. And they had a small television that was playing what happens in factory farming. I just stood there and watched the whole thing. And it was an immediate switch. And it became where it wasn't necessarily just about me. Like, I felt like I had to do something. I've always been that way with animals and wanting to help and just doing whatever I can for those that are in need. And I mean, it just stuck. And so it wasn't for any religious purpose, anything like that. It was expensive when I started because the only thing around was Whole Foods. And the nickname, of course, is Whole Paycheck, because that's what it would take. Is your entire paycheck. So it's so expensive. You're right. But now things have definitely opened up where it's becoming more where you can find things that are available. And being intersectional is different because you have people that become vegan for the planet or for the animals or for health purposes. I have to take it within another span because, especially within communities of color, there seems to be a misconception or perceived notion that if you are of color and you are eating healthy, that you think you're better than anybody else, or that it's not attainable. And that's something that I speak on highly, and especially when it comes to children. My little ones are vegan. They've been vegan since they were born. I had a vegan pregnancy, and they're thriving. They are 8 and 9, and they look like they are 12 and 13 in height. And yeah, and they are. There's a lot of problems where you have some parents that will take veganism and make it a trend. There have been deterrents because children have died because parents are like, it's an in thing, and then they don't feed the child. You can't do that. You have to research, and everybody is different. There are groups and communities. There are groups that I have left in terms of vegan communities because it's either A, I don't look like the typical vegan. I'm not rainbows and unicorns. I'm not. I am cemeteries and clouds and fog and rain. It is the fact that we are all in for the same purpose. Okay. You're wanting to make sure that you are either making a difference, you are trying to help the environment. We're in it because we're vegan. That's what the main mission behind it. If you're going to judge me by my outside appearance, you have a problem. You can't say that you are. I've been hit with an onslaught of you're an embarrassment and you can't be vegan. You don't look like this person. And, you know, it can be hurtful. I think when I first started out and doing what I was doing, I posted something about it, not calling anybody out. And the surprising response by the vegan community, by goths in the vegan community, and then other people who weren't even part of the subculture, but they were just like, you know, people were like, who are they? Give me receipts and names and stuff. And I was like, no, it's okay, because you don't want to stoop to their level. You want to show them that they're the ones at fault and they really need to reassess and think. In the African American community, I don't fit in there either, in terms of vegan community, in terms of just who I am. Unfortunately, there's that stereotype. It must be rap. It must be this. It must be, you have to look how they want you to look, or how they perceive that you as a person of color have to look. If you divulge from that, something's wrong with you, you know.
You know, I wanted to bring up one thing is during the pandemic, I had a romance with a vampire who was of color, and she was like, I don't fit into the Black community because I'm a metalhead and I'm a vampire. I'm a body mod person, and she grew up in Akron, Ohio, and she's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And she can cook like one. She aesthetically and her food, she cooked for me like I couldn't believe it. I mean, she wasn't vegan, but
Mhm.
she told me of the struggles she had being an alternative person in the Black community was very interesting, and I wasn't aware of that, and it was good to learn about that.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way. Music doesn't know what color you are. You know, you don't turn on the radio or put something in. Like I don't listen to Bauhaus and then before it starts, it's like, wait, that's a black person. Switch. It's not that. It's you looking from some closed lens yourself. There's nothing stopping you from listening to it. I think it's more that you don't want what your friends are gonna think. It's really great on TikTok to see how many people of color are literally just coming out, telling their same stories and being like, I don't care. I love to listen to it. It doesn't strip me from who I am. I'm a proud Nigerian. Just because I like listening to metal or goth or emo or anything like that doesn't mean that I'm less black. I mean, it boggles the mind. And I'm like, the problem is not with me, it's with you.
Here's something that you might find interesting. I lived in Europe for 15 years,
Mhm.
and I love Europe because it's a whole different perspective on things. And one time I went into a I went into a supermarket, and I saw this at the register. There was black music, and I looked in there, and there was a Cruise Shadow CD, and I'm like, what the hell? And the thing is that people of African descent are called African people of African descent,
Mhm.
and black people are goths and metalheads. And I was like, whoa, this won't go over well in America. But
No.
go Germans for actually saying it literally.
Yeah, that's so
And
interesting. Be more open.
it's like I made fangs for a African princess over named Asha,
Mhm.
and her mom and dad were from very similar cultures in Africa, but
Mhm.
met as students in Germany and got married and had her.
Mm.
And she was like, "Yeah, it's like here I'm just German." I
Yeah,
mean, I love that, and that made me feel really good, and it was a different perspective than the States where everything's divided by what color you are.
yeah. It's ridiculous. It doesn't have to be that way. Um, it's interesting that you would say the differences between Europe and here. So I used to work at Hot Topic, and I remember there was a young lady that came in, and I was the only person of color working there, and
Mhm.
she had all purple and black, head to toe, the sweetest little thing, and she was wearing all him gear, and I was like, hey. And she just looked like a deer in the headlights. Like there's somebody that looks like me working here. Did I? Is this the upside down type of face? And she just would kind of run, and I'm like, huh, hey. And I was, telling her about I love your shirt. I was naming off hymn songs and what's your favorite. And so she just kind of hit off, and I was just like, oh, okay. So then I went over to the rock wall, folding shirts, and she kind of peered up. She went back down, and I'm like, it's okay. And she came to me finally and was like, how do you do it? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she was like, how do you not get laughed at? How are you not beaten down for dressing the way you're dressing, for how you're looking, for what you're listening to? And then she just started to cry. That sent me, and I started a magazine because of it. And
Oh,
Phantom,
cool.
yeah, it was originally called Prism. Um, Phantom is inclusive, and she was the catalyst for that because unfortunately, you didn't see much representation within the scene. Yes, there are artists, there are performers, but nothing where it's in pages like it would be alternative press. Maybe a speckle here, or maybe a line here, or maybe a small area, but nothing where you can open up and there's a full on spread of people by POC, all parts of the, in terms of races, gender, sexuality, things like that. And it was very, very much the first issue that we did. I mean, we interviewed Margaret Cho, we had Roger Gemini on the cover, we've done Sharon Needles, we had Sam Whitmore of Being Human, we've interviewed cast from True Blood, we've had so many bands, so many remarkable people, and it's been so much fun and rewarding in the sense that people can pick up the publication and say, hey, I can connect with this, because not only is it a genre that I love, but they look like me and maybe didn't know about it. So when I became pregnant with my little ones, it was on hiatus. And I decided that once they were a little bit older, I'm going to go ahead and restart it. And Goth and Raw actually kind of took precedent and kind of went way forward, and I got really busy with that.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, well, not as quickly as I think I can, but I'm starting it back up very soon. Hopefully, the end of this year, I'll be able to get it back up and going and launched again. So it is no longer Prism; it is now Phantom, and I'm super excited.
Phantom is, I think, Phantom. I mean, as a person who loves the concept of branding and verbal sigils, I think Phantom is a really cool name for your magazine. And where can we find your magazine?
It's going to be just digital for right now, as we're starting back up, and it's going to be phantommagazine.com, and then it will go back into print quarterly. So they will be released with seasons, just like we did with print with Prism. So your spring, your summer, your fall, and then the fall issues, however, are going to be special edition.
You should really, 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 really go to New York sometime, because there was one situation where I was running a vampire ball in New York. And one of the things that was really interesting was after Blade came out, a lot of the inner city kids got into vampirism, and they related to the clan and the Victorian etiquette and stuff like that. And in 1999, at the end of that year, I initiated 5 houses that were people of color.
Oh,
and one of them became very successful, and they ran their own nightclub called Hidden Shadows, and was Clan Hidden Shadows. And it was run by, I called the father of the leader was, I called him Ming the Merciless, because he looked like Ming from the old Flash Gordon movie. And he and his brother were martial artists in Harlem, and they did karate and other forms of martial arts. And they had a dojo that they would turn into a vampire club for people of color and inner city people. I'm talking 500-600 people on the dance floor wearing fangs and contact lenses. That were like it was insane. And Hidden Shadows to this day is a group of very respectable, very entrepreneurial, very creative, and amazing people that grew up in the inner city. And they have a lot of tattoo artists, martial artists. And Xanatos and his brother Jaga, I love Jaga because it's a little Thundercats theme for me. I remember walking in there. There was 2 memorable times that I had walking in Hidden Shadows that I thought was cool. The first time was I brought some vampires from out of town, and one of them was a Maradu, a warrior, and the others walked in. They walked into the door, past the trophy room, because it was a martial arts studio, and they just looked at each other and they just walked. They just said, "We got to go." And I'm like, come on, guys, these people are pussycats. They're vampires. They're family to us. And they're awesome. You should see the costumes and the fangs and the onks, and it's like vampire culture on crack. And so the security guard and I walked in, and everybody was hugging each other and doing Victorian etiquette and bowing, and rivalries were put aside, and I mean, a big deal. I was one of 3 white guys in the place. But it was the Black Veils vampire culture alive. They're descendants of Sabretooth clan. With all the different houses there, from Pantheon to Hidden Shadows to Modib, to, whatever just dozens of houses, and that people were making business, getting tattoo arrangements because, you know, um, one of my dearest friends, Miguel, and I got hugged by 144 Puerto Ricans at the same time once.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so I threw a vampire ball down in 2012, and we got up on the mezzanine, and the manager of the club goes, "What's with all the black goths?" And I'm like, "They're not goths, my friend. They're vampires." And he's like, "Holy shit!" And he's like, "Do you know how many bootleg bottles of absinthe we had to pull out of pants and jackets?" And they had a dispenser, just like a dispenser there. And there's a movie called Vampires: Reality is Stranger Than Fiction about this subculture that exists. And these people, all the symbolism that I created, because one thing that I wanted to do is I could have just made fangs and thrown parties and made my money.
Mhm.
Okay. But I wanted to bring vampire culture. I wanted to bring vampire networking. I wanted to bring vampire symbolism, music, art, and everything like that. And these guys lived it up. Okay. I mean, they made their own spins on it, but
Mhm.
they kept the traditions great. And one of my dearest friends, Miguel Valentin, okay, he was just out here, and his daughter's going to school out here, and he's coming to stay out here to bring it. We went to go see Moulin Rouge together, and his daughter was born of the culture that came from my business,
Oh wow.
and she's now going to art school out here to be a performing artist,
Oh, that's
and it's really good, and he's going to come stay with me for a couple days while he looks after his daughter, so he doesn't have to spend money on a ridiculous hotel room in Hollywood for $500 a night.
yeah.
Um, but the POC vampire culture is just alive and well. It's just very secretive. So
Yes.
just so you know, you're not alone. There's thousands of them. Okay, and they have their own, but it's centered in New York,
Mhm.
and and it was incredible,
That's
and I wish those parties would come back because that was the era.
yeah. It sounds like it. It would be great to. I lived in New York briefly for
Hmm.
modeling, and it definitely felt like home. It definitely,
Yeah.
definitely felt like home, and I miss it a lot. And to if I was able to be there around that time, because I moved there like right after high school, and then I was there because when I graduated from college, I wanted to be a fashion buyer, and
Oh,
so
smart.
yeah, and it was just so many people. Like you didn't feel there's a difference. Like you know, like if you're a tourist and you're like, oh, I'm gonna visit, but when you go and when you set foot, you're just like this. This is right. This is
Hmm.
home. I don't have to apologize for anything at all. I had
Do
the
you know
best time.
why? Because
No.
New York has a neighborhood for every culture you can imagine. There's a Nigerian neighborhood, there's a Kenyan neighborhood, there's a Cantonese Chinese neighborhood, there's like 5 Chinatowns, there's a little Korea, there's a little Japan. Okay. There's everything. And what you do when you go to New York is you become a New Yorker before you become anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, you put being a New Yorker as a priority, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And New York will always be in my heart, even though I moved around to Paris and Germany and Berlin and everything like that. My heart is still in New York in the East Village, and all the experiences I had. I became Father Sebastiaan in New York at Limelight nightclub, and I started the vampire culture there because when I came out into the vampire culture and I was looking for other vampires, there was nobody. There was individuals, but there was no culture. So my drive has been to create symbolism and music and encourage artists and diversity and everything. So I think the vampire is organically an extremely diverse thing. I mean, look at the number of POC vampires there are. You got Akasha, Blade, um,
Yep.
Eddie Murphy, um, Louis now, and we got
Yep.
to talk about that.
Yes.
Um, you've got Blade.
Grace Jones.
Grace Jones.
Yeah.
Just like the POC, the representation in the vampire community is really good. But we need more Mexican vampires.
Yes, because all we had to represent was oh goodness, From Dusk Till Dawn. Selma. Yes. We need more. Yes. Yes.
He hosted.
Harvey.
He's awesome. I made him a pair of fangs, and I have a video of him going, "By the power of Sebastiaan." he was really cool, and he was a really wonderful person to work with. Totally a diva. Has to brush his hair in a certain way. But he emceed the Endless Night Vampire Ball in LA last February, and did a great job. So let's get into a subject that we want to talk about.
Yes.
And what is that?
Oh, that would be Interview with the Vampire. Yes. Let's do this.
So what do you think of the new show?
I love it. When they announced it, I was excited but leery, nervous rather. And then found out that, that Christopher and his mother, of course, the late Anne, were involved. So I was like, okay, this is going to be fantastic. Then the casting came out. I was like, this makes me happy. I'm even more so excited for the show. As we were going, it was a very odd time too, because you're like, this is great. You're looking at the casting, and then of course we did lose Anne, and it was very somber, and it still is. And this was a great way to honor her and her legacy. What I was expecting, of course, was the backlash that was going to come because there's a person of color playing Louis. It has been on the heels of the Little Mermaid casting. I said, first and foremost, for those who may not know, a vampire is technically or listed as a mythical creature. Mm-hmm. Okay. A mermaid is also listed as a mythical creature. Is it really? Let's go back. If you want to keep quoting things like source material, the Brothers Grimm, with some things that have been released when they go ahead and adapt, the actual story of the Little Mermaid is quite dark. When she dies, she becomes sea foam. It is disturbing. She is 16. I mean, it is very disturbing. What really, what is the problem with seeing representation? They were so quick to jump on in regards to this show with, well, it's not original to the source. It's not original to the source. Then you catch them on their, source material. They can't give you anything. So I'm like, if you want to go back, one of the things that, of course, was questionable to me was, of course, the timeline. And I know it was to you as well.
Yeah, that was my big concern, because I love the Baroque pictures of Louis, Lestat, and Claudia in the Victorian Venetian, not Venetian, it looks like they're in a dark corner of Versailles.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And that was weird, because I was like, what are they going to do with the Vampire Theater? And wait, Daniel Malloy's 70 years old now? Okay, he's supposed to be turned into a vampire under Armand.
Yes.
So those changes are what really bothered me. Okay. And I'm still curious on how they handle them.
Well, I know that there are always going to be, especially when you're pulling something from book to screen, when they have to do adaptations, there are like a lot of changes that you're like, And then you're like, well, to make up for that, you really better deliver on everything else and stay as close as you possibly can. Changes here or there, okay, depending. But I was thoroughly impressed. And then I know that Anne had said it makes sense to have it reflect the population there. The majority, I mean, here we go. Let's just go into a history lesson. The majority of people who live in New Orleans, they're Black. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Slave trade. Let's just call it what it is. There are a mix. There are white Creole. There are Black Creole. That's why it's like, it's not that far-fetched for him to be someone who's Black. Again, it's
infuriating. I Creole to me, and historic, being a person of history, mm-hmm. Creole to me means a person from the colonies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can have Black Creole, Indian Creole, Native American Creole. You can be from India if you're born in the colonies, you're Creole.
Correct.
And that left it open. I think Louis. I loved how some of the quotes from the Easter eggs from the original movie when Jacob Anderson was driving down in his car and he said the year was 1910. That was like right out of Interview with the Vampire.
Yep.
And what I am not worried at all about the reaction people are having because everybody who's seen the show loves it. Okay, and the Louis, it's the same thing with variants from Marvel. Okay, you can have 50 different versions of a superhero. Okay, and you can have 50 different versions of or the DC multiverse or whatever. You can have variants of everything. The same thing on screen. Storytelling. English is a storytelling language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when like Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, I'm just not into it. It doesn't appeal to me. Okay. Mm-hmm. But Interview with the Vampire, I was really skeptical of the show at first. I was so skeptical of it just because of the time change. And then everybody's like, oh, the race card. And I'm like, what? That's not my problem. My problem. And I was trying to argue my issues. Okay. And everybody just thought it was like, I was mad about it because of a race. And I'm like, no, the timeline, 1910. All right. Mm-hmm. What about the Theater of the Vampires? Okay. How's this guy going to represent Lestat? I mean, here's the bottom line. This new show is fucking amazing.
Correct.
And I actually just met the guy who made the fangs for the show and the original movie. And I had tea with him the other day. And we talked about the differences between this new show and the old show. And everybody watch the show, give it 3 episodes. Claudia comes in the 3rd episode, which we're not there yet. Okay. I went to the Comic-Con trailer. I was more worried about the fangs looking bad and the timeline. Okay. Because I love Baroque vampires.
Yes.
And the how are they going to handle this? I'm curious how they're going to handle it. So, you know what? Fuck people having a problem with race. Okay, they'll get over that. Okay, and we'll prove it because now there's something for everybody in the story. All right, but you fuck with my Lestat, they're your dead meat buddies. Okay, because Lestat hasn't been represented properly.
Yeah. No, he hasn't been represented properly.
Tom, this is the Lestat from not Interview with the Vampire. This is the Lestat from Queen of the Damned, and this is the rock star Lestat, the wealthy dilettante who is just fucking badass. That's what I want to see. Okay, a French vampire, and he speaks French.
Yeah. Like you said, for me, you said in regards to Marvel, in regards to DC, I'm a Marvel person, DC. But You're right. Variance. It, there are a multiverse of madness can right then and there. If they need something to make them feel better, okay, well, just say that's part of that. But there are variants. There are versions. There are, you have to kind of, depending with the time, and I understand what you're saying about, it doesn't affect, like, you were, the race thing is not an issue to you, and it's not. The reason why it's exhausting for those of us who are of color, those of us who are Black, those of us who are vampires, those of us who are comic book nerds, things like that. When I went to go ahead and see Avengers Infinity War or Endgame, and Cap passes the shield to Sam, the theater was packed. As soon as he handed it over, somebody yelled out, "You are not giving it to a Black man. Are you serious?" We all turned around and said, "For the love of God, get out." Because you didn't read the comic. So many people take the mantle. You're not there because you are a Marvel fan. You are there because you associate that this person can only be white. This character, comic book character, can only be white. Where so many have taken up the shield, and Sam Wilson does become Captain America. And when they did Falcon and Winter Soldier, they touched upon it beautifully. And I was like, I hope that you guys are understanding that you guys are stupid in regards to how you are thinking. It is not just about you. In regards to this, that people were saying, oh, well, I don't know if it was through the thread with Facebook after your post, but I think it might have been. People were posting Count Chocula. They were like, the white guy is the bad. Oh yeah. They were posting Count Chocula. They were like, oh, the white guy is the bad guy, on top of Black people. Here we go with woke stuff. Then they started coming in with the anti-LGBTQ. I was like, I can't. I'm tired of this. What is it with you guys? What for people that are going through and saying all this? So it was me. It was other people who are within the community who are queer. I am non-binary. I am pansexual. I was like, you are not going to do this. One of the things that you will not do, you are touching upon two things, and you think I'm going to stay silent. Mm-mm. It is disgusting. Then people who are like, well, a Black man can never own that much property.
He could in Storyville.
Exactly. And then we had to educate. People were coming through like, okay, you think that a Black person could not be that wealthy? People are like, let's go ahead history. C.J. Walker, Madam C.J. Walker. Do you not know in Europe there were wealthy African Americans? Those that were freed slaves were wealthy individuals. You had wealthy individuals within the United States. Your ignorance is showing. Your ignorance is showing. And if you thought that you were going to go ahead and leave that comment there and no one was going to say anything, you were dead wrong. And I let her know. And she was laughing at all the comments. And then she got quiet. And we were like, oh, you're done. Come back, please. Please come back. We're not ending this.
I do not want people to understand. What I look like a straight white guy. Okay. I'm queer and I'm a quarter Mexican. And I have been socially awkward, okay, at times dealing with the race card, okay, because I haven't had to deal with it in the same ways that other people have, okay, and if God forbid I talk about it, oh my God, I'm the evil white guy, okay, but my children, the people I make fangs for, the people that wear this ankh, okay, are some of my biggest inspirations in my life. And I love and absolutely cherish the diversity that is organic in my Fang client base. And it's just awesome to like see my right-hand man and is awesome. And he grew up in New York City, and his parents read books all the time. Victor Magnus, he's my hero. Okay. And I just think that what would a world look like where we healed from this? What's the ultimate goal? And the vampire is a perfect metaphor to try to communicate that, because the vampire can be anybody.
Agreed.
And I just think that, like, look at the future. With Elon Musk, we're gonna be in space. Back to the vegan thing. You can only eat vegan in space. Okay, what are you gonna do? Bring a farm of cows?
No, you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, space is vegan. Future is vegan in space. Okay.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, and just all these different perspectives. I love to see storytelling at its finest, and storytelling is interpretations. AMC bought the rights to Interview with the Vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, AMC did something risky. They took a challenge and they modified the story. What are they going to do? Just remake the old story? You got to do something different. You got to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're looking at here, the vampire has something for a wider audience, and we get a real stat this time.
Yes.
Win-win for everybody.
Yes, and is a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
it's doing better than Game of Thrones.
Oh yes, yes it is. Yes it is. It's just phenomenal, and I am also very much connected to being a creative individual. Aesthetic, it is just absolutely stunning. And speaking of episode 3, when I watched the trailer and saw Bailey, from just her little clip, I said, she's going to eat this role. She is going to eat this role. I cannot wait. Do
you know the crown is from? Do you know the crown she's wearing?
No.
There's a picture of her in a crown. Princess? There's a picture of her, Lestat and Louis, and she's wearing a crown and a white dress.
Okay, yes.
Okay. I went to Comic-Con, and I watched the three of those people interact. Okay. Bailey, a princess. Okay, and she's gonna be a fucking killing machine and a princess. Daddy, I want more.
Like Veruca Salt kind of thing. I can't wait. She's gonna deliver. She really, really is. And just like you said, let's look at it. It is phenomenally done. I have seen nothing but great reviews. I've had people that are saying that, well, I can't watch it yet. I'm like, AMC has a free trial. Here you go. Go ahead and watch it. And the
only argument I found was, I don't want to invest I want to watch it, wait until I can binge it.
No.
Well,
watch it when it depends. Okay. I can't get mad at them. I guess it would depend on the person. I'm even surprised that I was able to sit there and watch. I have 2 children on the spectrum, one with ADHD, with her. So it's just like, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna watch. And so they may have reasons, but I think if you can actually go ahead and enjoy every single episode when it airs, that's when there's something about that. Instead of just sitting to binge, you get to immerse yourself at the same time as other people are doing the same. There's just something so different. But yeah, if you can't watch it when it comes on, okay, then. But I
think people are just trying to get most use out of the free trial.
Possibly.
Possibly. I went to Salem, I was in Salem last weekend for the Salem Vampire Ball. Yeah, I'm dating this podcast. And what happened is Alexis, who's the owner of VamFangs, the president of VamFangs, she goes to me, she's like, "Oh, I already saw it." And I'm like, she's like, "It's been out for 3 days." And they silently released it. Okay. And then they released the second episode on the time frame that they were going to release the first episode. Because they're building a new brand. They're building a new universe.
Right.
This is going to replace The Walking Dead.
Yep.
And and I'm like, I'm stuck, and everybody was all excited about Hocus Pocus too. And I'm like, fuck. I'm in Salem and Hocus Pocus 2's today. I'm not going to feel the vibe of the Vampire Current. Okay, because Hocus Pocus 2's out. And like, oh no, come on, let's get Interview with the Vampire talk. And everybody was talking about Hocus Pocus 2. And I'm like, no.
I was more talking about Interview with the Vampire. That was like my biggest thing. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the Immortal universe. And super excited about Mayfair Witches. And
what shows do you think they're going to do?
Huh?
What shows do you think they're going to do?
Ooh, I don't know yet. They really haven't given much. The executive producer for Mayfair Witches, that would be Axel Carolyn. She's also the executive producer for Sabrina. She's done a lot of things for Blumhouse Pictures, and American Horror Story. And she's got 2 other shows right now on Netflix, and we're friends. And she was the one that she had posted something about Mayfair, and I was like, wait, you're doing it? And she was, we were just giddy and talking with each other. And I'm going to be working on a collaboration in terms of food. And
cool.
Yeah. So this would be another big one, since I've done for Sabrina, and I've done for the Addams Family, the animated film, the first one, with United Artists releasing at MGM, in terms of a collaboration there. And I'm really excited to see what else they do. I mean, they really haven't announced anything else in terms of the universe as to what they're doing. They did say Interview with Vampire, and they did say Mayfair. I think that's all, at least I have seen from like press releases and things like that. I don't know where they're going to go. They might do, it's not even going to be a might. I really think that the next one's going to be Queen of the Damned. That's going to be
another. They're going to, that, I can't say anything. But yeah, that you just shot me in the foot.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I would love to see Jonathan Davies do the music for it.
I would love to too.
Thanks a lot, Nnaus.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I don't know anything. That was just a guess. Oh.
No. It's they're gonna do Queen of the Damned as kind of like, how they do Angel and Buffy.
Yeah.
They're gonna do something like that, from what I heard. But I was at the Comic-Con. I was at the Comic-Con panel for Interview with the Vampire back in July, and the thing is that, check this out, okay?
Yeah.
Lestat's story evidently hasn't changed, but the Lestat that we get is the Queen of the Damned Lestat, not the Interview with the Vampire Lestat.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm talking the books.
Yes.
They based Sam Reed played Lestat on the character from it, the Vampire Lestat. Yes. That's why he's the Brat Prince.
Yeah.
Okay. And the savagery, and I think that the Louis that we see in the interview, like not the historical reflection scenes, but the Louis that we see in the interview with the interviews in Dubai, are going to be interesting because Louis is Lestat's conscience.
Right.
But we'll see. You know, I think I do know that they're filming the second season in Prague.
Really?
Yeah, I do. So there's a lot of news there. But we're running out of time, Sovereign. Okay. We can go for hours, and let's get on the phone after this. Okay,
Yeah.
and go for more hours. All right, but we got to limit this to an hour for Instagram. So
Gotcha.
you've got your Phantom magazine coming out, phantommagazine.com. Where can
Yes.
people find you and your vegan and extraordinaire cooking show?
They can find it on all social media platforms at Goth and the Raw. And you can find it on the website is gothandtheraw.com. I have a new website that's coming out, which is houseofsovereign.com. And it's going to encompass everything that I do. So I have my beauty line that's going to be coming out under Sovereign Beauty and Apothecary. And the cookbook will be coming out pretty soon. I'm hoping to get that out by the end of the year. And there's some more writing that's coming into play. We're going to be working on getting the show. We're kind of doing some test runs and hopefully looking to go ahead and film that sometime during the summer. I'm looking to make a move, so I may be in your neck of the woods come the summer.
Ooh.
So
neighbors.
Yeah. I have a lot of things that doing a lot of with modeling, doing some more teaming up with some fashion brands, doing some more speaking, getting out there and possibly getting into some acting. And I am a musician as well, so I'm looking forward to releasing Under the Black Remure pretty soon.
You got your plate is full.
Yes.
I can't wait to see the fruits of your labors.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you for coming on the Father Sebastiaan Experience and this very honest discussion tonight was something that I think that needs to be done. And let's just empower people and use the vampire as a wonderful archetype to make people find themselves and empower themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Good night. Rock and roll.
Good night.
Thank you for watching. The best way to support us on this vampire adventure is through the crowdsource funding website, Patreon. Please support our sponsors, Endless Night, Vampire Ball, Sabretooth 3D Fangs, and Vampire Magazine. Thank you. Rock and roll.